Calculated measures are used to perform calculation of facts in logical tables. They define aggregation functions on the Aggregation tab of logical columns in the repository. Measures are defined in logical fact tables in the repository. Any column with an aggregation function applied on it is called a measure. Common measure examples are unit, price, quantities, etc. To create a measure, all aggregation should be performed from a fact logical table and not from a dimension logical table. In this set of steps, I will show you how to create a derived calculation measure. To create a derived calculation measure, you perform the following steps. Open the repository in offline mode. Create a calculation measure derived from existing columns. Create a calculation measure using a function. Load the repository. Create and run an analysis. Check the query log. Let's get started. In case you have closed your administration tool, you can open it by going to the Start, Programs, Oracle Business Intelligence, BI Administration tool. Then you will click on File, Open, and you choose the option Offline, and then you select the password for the Paint RPD, and do not select any repository with an extension other than .rpd. Recall that these are the repositories that have been loaded into the Oracle BI server memory and are not available to be used. We want to only use the RPD with an extension .rpd. We will now create a calculation measure derived from existing columns. In the business model and mapping layer, expand the paint and then expand the fact table. Right click on the fact table and then logical column to open in the logical column dialog box. On the general tab, enter the label actual unit price. Then click on the column source, select derived from existing columns using an expression, then click the Edit Expression button to open Expression Builder. In the left pane, select Logical Tables, Fact, and dollars. Click the Insert Selected Item button to move the dollars column to the right. Then click the division operator to add it to the expression. In the left pane, select Logical Tables, Fact, and then double-click the units. This adds it to the expression. We'll click OK to close the expression builder. Notice that the formula is added to the logical column dialog box. Click OK to close the logical column dialog box. The actual unit price calculated measure is added to the business model. Drag the actual unit price from the business model and mapping layer to the fact table in the presentation layer in order to add it to the presentation fact table. And that's how we move one derived column from the business model and mapping layer. We will now save the repository and check consistency. If there are any errors, we need to fix them before we proceed. Do you wish to check global consistency? Yes. Consistency check didn't find any errors, warnings, or best practice violations. Click OK. Next, we'll create a calculation measure using a function. In the business model and mapping layer, we want to right-click on the fact table, select New Object, then Logical Column to open the Logical Column dialog box. On the General tab, enter Revenue Rank. In the name field, then click on the column source. Select the derived from existing columns using an expression. Then click the Edit Expression button to open the expression builder. In the left pane, select Functions, Display Functions, and Rank. Click the Insert Selected Item button to move the rank function to the right pane. Click the number expression in the expression function. In the left pane, select Logical Tables, Fact, and then double-click dollars to add it to the expression. You click OK to close the expression builder. Notice that the formula is added to the Logical Column dialog box. Click OK to close the Logical Column dialog box. The Revenue Rank Calculated measure is added to the Business Mode and Mapping layer. Drag the Revenue Rank from the Business Mode and Mapping layer to the Fact table in the presentation layer. Again, we wish to save the repository and check consistency. We will have to fix any errors or warnings before we proceeding, if at all there are any errors or warnings that we are presented with. Consistency check didn't find any errors, warnings, or best practice violations. Go ahead and click OK. Next, we'll have to load the repository into the Oracle BI server. Return to the Fusion Middleware Control, which should still be open. If not, open a browser and either type in the URL to navigate to the Fusion Middleware Control Enterprise Manager.